The equipment of Apollo, some of it is now in museums, artifacts from an age of discovery. These strange-looking objects, they're there as reminders that after all, it did happen, and it happened the way we remember. The facilities of Apollo, now silent and still. In Houston, Mission Control, the nerve center of manned flight operations. The chapters of space history, first Mercury, then Gemini, then Apollo, were written by the people who sat at these consoles. And these chapters of history came at us with breakneck speed. Christmas Eve, 1968. In the beginning, Apollo 8. The footsteps were quickening. A few months later, Apollo 9. The long years of preparation were contracting into days, hours, minutes. The first manned flight of the lunar module, the Spider. Apollo 10, the dress rehearsal for the real thing. In 5 months, 3 missions, and in the 7th month, the payoff. Then, the celebrations. The images and the sounds fade in our memories, but some things we can't forget. Names: Apollo11, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins. Other names: Grissom, White, and Chaffee. They remind us that it wasn't all success and celebration. There was failure and tragedy. Early in 1967, the 3 crawled into the command module at Cape Kennedy for a test. There was a flash fire. All 3 died. After the shock came the long, painful job of picking up the pieces, learning the lessons, coming together for a common goal. The remains of the launch structure stand as a reminder that the goal was reached. These strange shapes, what do they mean? These towers of steel, what are they? Monuments or leftovers from some earlier age of discovery? In the long history of man, in the slow journey of the caravan, what point do these mark? Historian Arthur Schlesinger: I have no doubt at all that if posterity remembers the 20th century for anything, historians 500 years from now looking at the 20th century, it will be because it will be the century when man first began to break his terrestrial bonds and began the exploration of space. So that's it? As man learned, moved on, and discarded the earliest structures, he came to these. They're marked for further milestones, reserved for future missions, other reaches to other different voids. Historians 5 centuries from now will mark this century, this place, and they will further note that from the void, life, man, it took eons to reach this point. But once there, the centuries and years compressed into days, hours, split seconds of exploration. came slowly at first, then with increasing velocity. And then this, so huge, so powerful, so different that no ordinary modern name would suffice. They reached backward through antiquity to Roman mythology, and they named it Saturn. Saturn. His father was heaven, his mother earth. The complex organization, the mammoth machines, the incredibly detailed technical knowledge, the dedication, it was all harnessed, sharpened to a fine edge, and focused. The program developed and matured. Apollo 17 was launched at night, and even the old hands, the ardent veterans of the space program, couldn't help but feel the awe, wonder, and excitement. In the excitement of the split second of exploration, man doesn't stop to freeze the moment in history, to look at it and ask what it means. He simply lives it out. But in the Apollo program, on their way to the moon, they found a way to live out their strange moments in those strange spacecraft. It may be the peculiar nature of Americans to make history and to have fun in the making. They relaxed and had fun because we, were confident of success. But the program teaches lessons. Confidence is a transitory thing. Apollo 13.
Hey, Houston, we've had a problem here.
Can say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Stand by, 13. We're looking at it.
3 days out, barreling toward the moon, an explosion. No one would see the problem for some time, but they went to work on it. The people of Apollo coalesced into a single dedicated unit, linked themselves with their technology, and cheated tragedy. A new chapter in space history was written in Mission Control. Eugene Krantz was the flight director when the problem developed.
Throughout this entire next several days, there was one dominant thought in the minds of all of the flight controllers. We teach them that between God, country, and your own capability, that you can solve any problem that may occur in flight. Throughout the entire course of Apollo 13, there was never any doubt that we'd get the crew back. So there was a very positive approach, and with this kind of approach, you can solve just about any problem that comes up.
Solve any problem, country, capability, old-fashioned words during a time when some said the old-fashioned virtues were forgotten. Well, they weren't forgotten. They were translated into action, into programs which took man soaring above the surface of the moon, away from Earth, but always looking back on it. These divided thoughts, the moon, the Earth, run through the Apollo program, a sort of theme. They went there flying in their graceful machines, but they always thought back to where they came from. Perhaps that's natural. The moon is a strange place for men to be flying to.